This is the best creative strategies by ad spend from zero to over $1 million a month. And the reason why I decided to shoot this video is that in the last 30 to 60 days, I talked to a lot of e-com teams, and most of them are experiencing creative problems. Now, what's keeping them stuck is that they are hoping to hire their way out of these creative problems. But most of the time, it's not really a people problem, but it's a system problem. So my promise for you is that by the end of the video, you will understand what is the system you're currently lacking and what is the system you should implement in your business right now, given your current stage. So where does this come from? Where does this information come from? I am founder at 99ads.com. We offer done for you ads, recruiting, and consulting. We spent over $300 million in tracked ad spend on our ads. We built over 50 creative teams internally. We hired and placed over 150 creative strategists for our clients, and we helped hundreds of brands, including True Classic, OG, Exter, The Pot Company, Skin Laundry, Pact, Michael Todd Beauty, and Boca. So before we start, we need to clarify and agree the meaning of a few terms. The first one is creative strategy. When we mention the two words creative strategy, I have a specific meaning. I understand a specific thing. Person A understands another thing, person B understands another thing, and person C understands something that's completely different. So I want to make sure we're talking the same language. Now, at 99 Ads, we define creative strategy as the disciplined prioritization of the next most impactful move, which means that having a clear creative strategy means that we know exactly what we are focusing on, and we make sure that that thing is what moves the needle to the next level, right? So with that being said, and with that clarified, let's start from the end. What does a good ad account look like? And this is some sort of a personal story that I can share with you, because back in the days, the first time I got access to an ad account that was spending multiple towards the high seven figures a month, the night before I got access to it, when we signed up the contract, closed the client, I went to sleep and I was just thinking about what does this ad account look like? How much chaos is going to be in this ad account? How many campaigns? How many ads? How much craziness there will be? And instead, the day after, I woke up, ran to my laptop, and what I saw was an immaculate ad account. And from the outside, as somebody who was the first time that was getting access to that ad account, was incredibly clear how everything was well structured, how everything was in the right place, and looked absolutely immaculate. So if we have to give some sort of a structure to that ad account, this is how it would look like. There would be three main levels: the audience level, the angle level, and the ad level. Now, each audience would have different angles, and each angle would have different winning ads. And another cool thing is that this entire system was repeated by offers. So each offer had their own campaigns with different audiences, different angles, and so on. And this is what we call the 3A framework at 99 Ads. So when we share our proprietary system with our consulting clients, this is what we talk about. And we have the ad level, the angle level, the audience level, and the offer level. How do we make sure we're talking about the same thing here? So first things first, this is what we define as the offer. Is what we sell and how we sell it. And the definition is very simple. This is basically the value proposition of our offer, is how the product is positioned, priced, and packaged. And what's important to understand is that offer doesn't mean product, but it's the way the product gets packaged and presented and positioned to the clients. Now, changing the structure, so we can go for a bundle or a subscription or a buy one, get one, etc., creates a new offer. The same product with a different offer attracts a different segment of the audience. Just to give you some examples, we can have a single skincare serum offered as a bundle, and that would be the anti-aging kit. The same supplement sold as a subscription would be save 20% and never run out of our product. Then given the identical product but positioned as a gift set, it would be for men who take care of themselves. What is the audience? The audience is who we target. The definition is a definable group of people we are speaking to. This can be broad, men 45 plus, or very specific, women 35 to 45 buying for their husband. What puts these people within the same audience is that they share some common traits, which can be the stage of life, the problems, the intents, the contexts, and the interests they have. To give you some examples again, men 45 to 60 with visible aging concerns, daughters 25 to 35 buying for their dad, and young professionals 25 to 34 upgrading from drugstore products to actual high quality products. If I'm struggling, is because I'm a little sick and my voice is not there 100%. What do we talk about when we refer to angle? The angle is how we target our audience. And this is the perspective or claim that makes the product relevant to our specific audience. This is the core argument that we're testing, and it's obviously not the editing style. To give you some example, at 99 Ads, we have the EPIC framework. EPIC stands for emotional, practical, identity, and critical. An example of emotional angle would be look like the sharpest 50-year-old in the office. The practical example would be 3 steps, 90 seconds, done. Identity, be the executive who looks the part. So this is how you kind of become one of them, one of the executives who look the part. In critical, every month you wait, wrinkles deepen. Then finally, we have the ad level, and this is how we package it. This is the packaging container of the combination of one winning audience and one winning angle. The different concepts are basically represent different ways to present the same audience and angle combination. To give you some examples, you have UGC, founder POVs, you have demo, testimonials, before and after, skits, PAS, etc. To give you some examples here, you can have the UGC of a wife explaining her husband's 60-second routine. You have the testimonials of a wife saying he finally sticks to it. Then you have problem solution edits of a wife explaining the steps of what she gifted to her husband. And finally, the founder POV built for men who hate routines. Now, one thing that I want to clarify that's very important for us to understand is that bottom up, from the bottom towards the top, we are basically talking about the variable with the biggest potential of increasing the ad spend that you're working with. So if you crack the code with a new offer, your ad spend grows exponentially. You unlock a big level of ad spend. Then the audience, same thing, obviously less than a new offer, but you unlock a relatively big amount of ad spend. Angle, less, but still relatively good. The ad is where you unlock less amount of ad spend, but it's where you kind of want to make sure that you crack the code, because that's what keeps the ad spend stable. On the other hand, the ad level is the easiest to crack, meaning finding a new winning ad is the easiest compared to finding a winning angle or a new winning audience or a new winning offer. So the higher in this framework, the more likely you are to have a higher win rate. The lower you go, obviously, the more you increase the risk and the more likely you are to lose and to spend money on tests. In this case, we don't talk about wasting money, but we talk about investing in data so that Meta or TikTok or whatever platform you're advertising on shows you their hand basically and gives you an understanding of how the market responds to your new offer, to your new audience, to your new angle. So the most important part is making sure you understand what is the right order of priorities when it comes to unlocking each one of these variables. And with this, let's get started. So, what is step one, and what is that it takes us from $0 to $10,000 a month in ad spend? At this level, we want to focus on the offer. So this is our end result. This should be per offer. But at this level, we are at 0. We're trying to get to 10 grand a month. So it's very limited. We're basically getting started. What we're focusing on at this stage is the offer. So we need to find what we call the offer market fit. And this is the most important thing that we need to crack. If from the get-go, as we're spending $0, we're thinking about testing out a bunch of audiences, a bunch of angles, a bunch of different ads, we are not making ourselves a favor. In the way we do it, the way we crack the offer market fit is by testing out and finding our Trojan Horse. And the Trojan Horse is not a hero product, but should be a hero offer. And I could spend the next 2 hours talking about how many examples I've seen of people with the same with the same product offered in different ways that start getting completely different results with their ad campaigns. So what you want to do at this stage is testing different ways of presenting your offer, different bundles, different landing pages, different pricing, different audiences that you want to appeal to with your specific offer. At this stage, you want to build trust. So you want to build UGC content, testimonials, before and after, founder-led content. But the highest priority at this stage is getting daily and steady sales. You're not thinking about getting profitable. First things first, you want to get sales, then you think about getting profitable. And once we get there, the next question we should ask ourselves is, what's the product we can scale? And to answer this question, we need to understand 2 things. The first thing is the lead time, and the second thing is the total addressable market. At this stage is where we have most of the pitfalls. So the first one is obviously the shiny object syndrome in not committing to any product. At this stage, it could not be easier to keep on testing out new things, to keep on going from dropshipping to agencies, from agencies to crypto, from crypto to self-publishing, to whatever you want. You want to focus on your goal, which is finding the offer market fit, but then you want to make sure you are committing to it. Once you have a clear idea, you want to commit to it. And trust me, this is one of the most complicated things in the world. As an agency owner, every time we want to open up a new offer, this becomes a mess because we go all over the place. We'll look at this type of offer, that new offer. Whereas you want to make sure you have a good one in your hands, so something that you can actually scale, something that makes sense in terms of the unit economics. But once you have that, you want to commit to it and make sure that you can get past this first 0 to 10 grand a month as fast as humanly possible. That's the goal. Then the second trap is getting trapped in the drop shipping approach. So you keep being incredibly frugal, you keep trying, testing out new things. You still have that shiny object syndrome, but now you have it within your specific vertical, within your specific niche. You're not doubling down, you're not investing in any product, in any offer, but you're just drop shipping again and again and again. You are still afraid of commitment. Then the third common pitfall is forgetting about margins. You don't even think about margins, you just scale, you're happy because for the first time you're seeing sales in your Shopify dashboard, but what matters is profit. What matters is not revenue, although this is probably what they make you think if you look at the YouTube videos or the X accounts and you look at the screenshots that grab attention. That's not the point. The point is making profits. It's not just skating to the moon. In understanding your financial is absolutely crucial, which is connected to the unit economics. You kind of want to project your numbers, your current numbers to a bigger scale and make sure things make sense. Then not acknowledging taxes, especially if this is your first business, is kind of a very common pitfall. Going pro too fast and making the structure heavier than it needs to be. This is pretty much the opposite problem of the dropshipping mentality, where you go pro too fast. So you can't wait to hire new people, the first person, the second hire, the third team member, and you just go pro way too fast. You now have a heavy structure to keep up with, and every month your overhead went through the roof. So this is simply something you don't want to do. You want to be resourceful. You want to make sure you're not bleeding money, and you're finding solutions for yourself, and you hire when it hurts, not beforehand. And then finally, not understanding how to shoot content yourself. And this is something that we see more and more often. People that have a new store, a new product, it's still at this stage 0 to 10 grand, but they spend 20 grand on a shooting. That doesn't make any sense at this stage. So this is one of the common pitfalls. Now, once we get to 10 grand, this is where we get access to step number 2, which is where we should be focusing on the ad level. And this is what gets us from 10 grand to 100 grand a month in ad spend. So once again, this is our end result. This is what it should look like once we get to 1 million plus a month. And at this stage, we are focusing on the ad level. So we only have one audience, which is the one we found at the offer level. We only have one angle, which is still the one we found at the offer level. And now we need to transform that one ad that we have available into many. And in order for us to be able to do that, we have to build something that we call the iteration muscle, the iteration muscle. And the iteration muscle should come before diversification. And at this stage, this is by far the most common trap that I see in the e-com teams. Most of them don't understand that the same winning audience and the same winning angle can take them to way past 100 grand a month in ad spend. So they're constantly finding novelty. They're constantly finding new people, new segments, new angles, but they haven't squeezed and they haven't built that iteration muscle that we talked about. So there's still a lot that they can scale with the current winning audience, the current winning angle. And this is where you have to learn how to build that iteration muscle. Sometimes I see stores that can basically scale out of the blue and they get to very high numbers in ad spend, but they haven't built that muscle that I'm talking about. And then once they are at 300, 400 grand a month in ad spend, then they have to take a step back and rebuild the creative foundations, as we call them. And the iteration muscle is absolutely crucial. It's something that you can skip at first if you're offer market fit. It's absolutely perfect. You have the perfect time. You don't have many competitors. But once that's there, you want to build that iteration muscle. You want to make sure you have clear SOPs to iterate and multiply your winning ads. Now, at this stage, once again, we are locked in on a one winning combination, which is one audience and one angle, but we want to find multiple winning concepts. The way we do it is by implementing our iteration frameworks. Now, I'm not going to go through it in this video, but if you're interested in it, in the description, you'll find a link to download all of the SOPs I will be talking about in this video. So if you're interested, at the end of the video, keep watching this video or you'll be missing out on how to implement everything. But at the end of the video, you go in the description, you click the link, you opt in, and you get all of the SOPs that I'm mentioning in this video. Now, what is the goal at this stage? You grow past this stage once you learn how to multiply your winners and extend their lifespan through creative iteration. And again, the way you do it is by using our iteration frameworks. Go in the description and download them. The testing framework at this level is very simple. You have one ad set per concept in your ABO campaign. You have 4 variations per ad set. You have strict rules, which are the stop loss, trim the fat, and graduation. And only the validated ads graduate into the scaling campaign. This is part of the SOPs. Once again, go download them. At this stage, you want to learn how to play with concept packets, which again is part of the link in the description. And you want to optimize your naming convention, which is exactly what I talked about in the last video. If you want to check it out, I'll make sure it pops up here. You want to watch it after this video. Now, what are the team members you kind of want to have at this stage once you go through it? You want to basically kind of finish this, this stage with a very lean structure where you have a full-time video editor, a part-time graphic designer, and a full-time creative strategist. Now, you don't need a full-time creative strategist yet at this stage. Part-time is more than enough based on our system. We have one video editor that can create 50 ads per week. So the creative strategist, considering they would be able in a full-time position to manage 2 video editors and brief enough for 2 video editors, that would give us enough briefs with a part-time position. However, in our experience, this is what we've seen, and clients are always able to make their own decision, and the last call is theirs. But what we've seen is that 10 to 100 grand goes very fast. And if it goes very fast and you get to the third stage without a creative strategist that really understand what performs for your brand, how to talk to your clients, how to manage your team members, your creators, your agencies, and if they haven't tagged everything and tagged all of the different variables, winning variables, as they went from 10 to 100, this is all work they will have to do on the third stage. And what happens is that in the third stage, the amount of ads, the total output of ads that we need to create is much higher, so they will be much more busy creating the briefs. And for that reason, it will be much harder for them to go back and see what has worked in the past, what was validated in the past, and put it together in what we call the building blocks repository. So for that reason, we usually recommend starting with a full-time creative strategist either way, but it's not really required for the current output. The output at this stage is 100 to 200 ads per month. So this is, and I'm talking about video ads. The static ads are considered differently. With a part-time graphic designer right now, using AI, you can create a whole bunch of statics, but this is not the topic of the video. The topic of the video is mainly around video ads in understanding the relationship between creative strategists and video editors. What success looks like at this stage and what gets us to stage number 3 is us being able to consistently generate at least 1 to 5 new winners per week. Once we have a creative testing that's systematized and predictable, and once our performance stabilizes above over 100 grand a month. What are the common pitfalls at this stage? Well, the first thing is trying to open up new audiences or angles too early. As I said before, the same audiences, the same angles can take you way past 100 grand a month. So you don't want to focus on that. You want to focus on the ad level and on building your iteration muscle. And that's where all your attention should go. Now, another trap at this stage is confusing the ratio between testing and scaling budget. Usually, one of the most common problems at this stage is that teams spend way more than they should on the testing level, and they spend much less on the scaling level. And then they complain that the ad account is not stable. But by definition, a testing campaign cannot be stable. Otherwise, it would be a scaling campaign. So for that reason, you want to make sure that you have a well-structured, well-defined ratio between testing and scaling budget. Then low-quality briefs. This is the most common thing. Creative strategists expect video editors to basically do the brief, the creative strategy part. So they kind of have briefs that are usually simple Notion sheets or Google Docs where they kind of explain the video editor what they expect, and then the video editor has to do everything. And then obviously the total output will be lower than what it should be. In what I usually see is teams, ecom teams, pointing their fingers on the video editor rather than the creative strategist. So they don't really understand the problem is the brief and the system they have around the briefs rather than the actual video editor. Finally, we have two more. One of them is strict brand guidelines, and then another one is micromanaging the entire team. And this is something that happens mainly with first-time founders that are constantly getting in the way. And for us to fix this problem, we recommend our clients to remember the 80% rule, which means if somebody else can do the same job at 80% of what I would be able to do, but frees up my 100% of the time, then I'm more than happy to take that 20%, the 20% less quality, if that makes sense. Once we're here, then we enter stage number 3. And this is what we call the angle level. And the angle level takes us from $100,000 a month to $500,000 a month. So previous stage, we focused on the ad level. We built our herd of winning ads. And now on stage 3, we focus on the angle level. So we go from one audience and one angle to one audience and 4 angles. Now, one thing that's very important, every time we jump on the next stage, we should keep in mind that the total output of the ads we create becomes bigger. Why is that? Because in this case, we're focused on the angle level. The problem is that the ad level is what's keeping us floating. It's what keeping us at $100,000 a month. So while we're focused on jumping from 100 to 500, we want to make sure that what got us to 100 is still getting kept alive. So we keep creating those ads. We keep making sure that that winning angle keeps delivering winners so that at least those 100 grand are stable and we can keep on spending them in a profitable way. But in the meantime, we're trying to open up new angles. So this is very important. And this is one of the most common mistakes I see. At this stage, scale happens at the angle level. You still have one winning audience and you don't want to touch it yet. You want to now focus on the angle level and keep iterating on the ad level. The highest priority is keeping the only winning angle that we have profitable. Highest priority. Second priority, opening up new angles. How we do it? We implement the EPIC framework. You'll find it in the SOPs. Once again, go in the description, free SOPs, download that, opt in, and enjoy all of these free SOPs. Emotional angle, how it makes you or your loved one feel. Practical angle is basically about what problem it solves. Identity angle is what it says you are as a person, what is your identity. And critical is what you lose if you ignore it. And each and every one of these categories can spawn very easily 5 to 10 angles from the same offer. You can play with GPT to come up with new angles. Obviously, there's Grok, Claude. You decide. You have so many options here. But once you explain your AI, let's call it that way, what these 4 categories stand for, then all of a sudden it starts giving you a whole lot of new angles that you can try. The goal here is to only validate 3 to 5 new angles, and that's enough for us to get to the next stage. What does the creative team structure look like at this stage? So as we get by the end of the 500 grand, the stage number 3, The recommended structure is the following. We have 2 full-time video editors, we have 1 full-time creative strategist, and we have 1 part-time graphic designer. Usually, I see e-com teams with the same graphic designer that doesn't only work on ads, but works on different types of graphics within the team, unless obviously your product lends itself to static ads that work better, perform better than video ads. But given a standard situation, this is usually what I see. The total output at this stage goes from 200 ads per month to 400 ads per month. So again, we have each video editor creating 50 ads per week per video editor. And obviously the creative strategist has to brief 100 ads per week, 50 per video editor. And this is why it's so important in the previous stage to make sure that you build the right foundations. So your creative strategist is just gonna take advantage of those, and it's gonna take him way less to create new briefs because everything is just very well tagged, very well stored, and it just needs to mix and match things. In what success looks like at this stage, we have 3 to 5 new angles that are now converting profitably, and they're targeting the same audience. We have a clear performance dashboard segmented by angle, and we have a team that operates autonomously, understanding a repeatable system. So they know exactly what we're talking about here. They know exactly that at this stage, we just want to focus on the angle. And we are not working anymore in a reactive way where, oh my God, my ads are not working anymore. What should we do? We need to reinvent the wheel. No, we have a clear structure. We have a clear order of priorities, and we do that actively. Proactively, we fix these issues, we fix these problems. Our ad spend gets stable between $300,000 and $500,000 a month, which usually is 10 to 20. That's what I see. I mean, you don't get to 500,000 divided by 30. It's usually go from 10, 12.5, 15, 17.5, 20. This is usually what we look at. Up to 20 grand, we can still consider just angles, and then we start looking into the next stage. Common pitfalls: jumping to new audiences before angles are stable. We talked about this for a while now, so don't touch new audiences if you are at this stage. Testing angles inconsistently and mixing up variables. This is a big problem. If you think you are testing out a new angle, but in fact you are testing out a new audience, that's a problem. That's an issue. And obviously that's not ideal. Failing to document learnings and repeating the same mistakes. This is the biggest trap at this stage. And you fix this problem in the previous stage. So if you are here, you need to go back as fast as possible to building those foundations the right way. So the next stage is just going to be much smoother. And the risk is that your ad spend is not going to be stable. And that's the biggest problem. And if you're here, it's just a no-brainer to hire consultants like us to make sure that everything gets implemented the right way. So if that's the case, book a call at 99ads.com/demo. You can find the link here. Just go there, book a call, let's talk. At this stage, it's literally a no-brainer to work with us. Another common pitfall at this stage is creative burnout from unstructured communication cycle. You need to have a clear communication cycle within your team. The creative strategist, at least within the creative team, is the person in charge of making sure that everybody understands everything, that there's a clear structure when it comes to the actual communication cycle. So you want to make sure this is clear and everybody has their responsibility clear in their mind. And finally, confusing concepts and angles. This is a very classic one, but if you go back in this video, you understand what is the difference. Now, once you're here, we enter step 4. Step 4 is the audience level. And this is usually $500 to $1 million a month. Take with a pinch of salt all the numbers I'm talking about here. Obviously, depending on what you're selling, depending on your niche, depending on your vertical, these numbers might be different. For some niches, you might want to focus on the audience level a little later. It's fine. But this is still the order of progression you should have. Previous stage, we focused on the angle level. In this new stage, we go from one audience, 4 angles in a bunch of winning ads to focusing exclusively on the audience level. Well, not exclusively, but as a main focus on the audience level. So for the first time, we want to go from 1 winning audience to 3 winning audiences. So this is where we're going to fail the most. This is where we're going to take the highest risks with our creative strategy. But this is what's going to get us to the next stage. So let's keep in mind, it doesn't really matter what we are going to do at this stage in terms of the audiences. The highest priority is making sure that these 4 angles that are the ones that got us here, they are kept alive, they are kept profitable. So this first level is always the highest priority. If we don't prioritize this first level, then our account doesn't stay stable. And we go back to the previous stage, which is something that I see very, very often. I see many stores that like spike up very fast. They get to 20 grand, 30 grand, 40 grand a day. And then right after, they have to go back because the ads are not stable at that level anymore. So they need to rebuild the foundations. If you are at an early stage of the store and you're watching this video, you're lucky. You're like in a very good place. Anyways, scale at this level happens at the audience level. At this stage happens at the audience level. The main risk at this stage is concentration. What do I mean? I mean that 80 to 90% of your ad spend comes from just one audience. So one creative slump or one CPM spike or one external factor that happens to the macroeconomy of the country you're targeting can impact the entire business. And at this stage, you have a higher overhead. At this stage, you are getting a lot of inventory to keep up with the ad spend. It's not only ads, obviously. There's a lot that's going on. So you really want to make sure that your risks are not concentrated with just one audience. For that reason, you want to make sure that you find new ones. And the goal here is to keep your core audience open and profitable while gradually expanding into 2 to 3 adjacent audiences that can scale alongside it. So you don't touch the offer, you keep the offer identical, but you focus on the audiences. And the way we do it is usually we expand horizontally, meaning that we find new buying contexts for the same product. If you are not running a store with many SKUs, in that case, it might vary slightly. If interested, let me know in the comments. But let's say that our primary audience, as we said before, is men 45 plus, and we are selling skincare that they can buy for themselves. The first expansion could be potentially wives, so women 35 to 45, buying for husbands. The second expansion can be daughters 25 to 35, buying for their fathers. Expansion number 3 can be young professionals, so not only 45 plus, but now 25 to 35, that are upgrading from drugstore products. Again, the offer doesn't change. What changes is the buyer and the context. As simple as that. Once again, you want to maintain the core engine active. You want to keep the core engine alive. 80 to 90% of your spend still stays behind your primary audience, and the rest goes to control expansion tests. At this stage, it's more important than ever to have clear documentation of the learnings. You want to track every test by audience in your creative tracker. What happens at this stage is that most of the times, this happens later on with the offers, but before with the audiences, what happens is that the overall account stays profitable, but one main audience is basically feeding and making up for the losses of the other audiences. You want to make sure that doesn't happen. So your creative tracking sheet should be very clear in how many sales and how much profit we're getting per audience. Very important. The creative team structure at this level is the following. We have one creative director or head of creatives. This is obviously by the end of the stage. You have 2 full-time creative strategists. You have 4 full-time video editors. You have 1 full-time graphic designer. And for the first time, we're introducing the creative ops assistant. So I mentioned 2 roles actually that we haven't heard. The first one is the creative director or head of creatives, and then the creative operations assistant. Now, usually what I see, and this is why in the first place I recommended starting with a full-time creative strategist, is that creative strategist now gets promoted to the position of creative director, head of creatives, and gets access to 2 full-time creative strategists that are less experienced, but that can just work and implement what he says or she says. The initial creative strategist doesn't have enough time to create 400 to 800 briefs per month, so starts getting focused on the higher level and make sure that the execution and the lower level tasks get implemented by 2 different creative strategists. We have 4 full-time video editors. We have 1 full-time graphic designer. At this stage, we need the graphic designer to be full-time just for the ads. And then we have 1 full-time creative operation assistant. The creative ops assistant should be somebody that you interpret as some sort of an executive assistant for the creative team. At this stage, you have a lot of QC. When you're creating 400 to 800 ads per month, the head of creatives is not going to be able to check out all of the ads. Creative strategists can, and ideally you want to have systems in place that make sure that video editors and graphic designers don't make stupid mistakes on your ads. But at the same time, you want to have somebody that's in charge of getting nothing bad out and live on your ad library. So this is what the creative operations assistant does. And on top of that, in the AI world right now, creative strategists tend to give video editors a lot of AI generated content ideas. But if video editors do that, then it's going to be harder for them to deliver 50 new video ads per week, which is usually what happens. And that's why video editors tend to have a lower output than the one we're talking about. If we want them to create 50 video ads per week, we need to make sure that they can edit. So video editors should edit videos. Creative strategists should brief content. And the creative operation assistant is the person that would get these requests from the creative strategists, create the content. So you kind of need somebody who understands AI, or you want to train them. And they deliver this content to the video editors. Now, as I said before, we have 400 to 800 ads per month as a total output. Priority, old, first, audience, all its angles. Then we work on the new audiences. And what success looks like at this stage, so what allows us to upgrade to the next level, is having 2 to 3 new audiences that are converting profitably using the same offer and different angles per audience. Ideally, you have the core audience still active and profitable. You have a predictable testing cadence. The total ad spend between 500 to 1 million a month in a utopian world is distributed across multiple stable audiences, and their performance variance between the audiences is lower than 15%. Is that possible? Not always. Is that easy? Not at all. So this is the goal in a utopian world. But if you do have those 2 to 3 audiences that are converting profitably and that we can focus on, and that gets us to 1 million plus a month in ad spend, that's perfect. And that's what gets us to the next stage. The common pitfalls at this stage are, first things first, trying to open up 5 new audiences all at once. That's just not ideal because you're spreading your testing budget way too thin. And also, if you're going for 5 new audiences all at once, it means that you're kind of not giving a fair shot to all of the audiences, to each and every one of the individual audiences. So you don't want to do that. What you want to do is focus on the first adjacent audience with the highest likelihood of high performance, of good performance, and you start with that. And you give it a fair shot, you see the results, and then you keep moving based on those. Changing angles simultaneously with audience tests, that's not ideal. In an ideal world, you kind of want to recycle as many of the validated elements you already have as possible. So if you can recycle validated angles from the first initial audience, you do that. Same thing happens with the concepts and the ads. Forgetting about the primary audience, obviously, big mistake. Losing naming discipline, considering that now you have new audiences, you want to make sure that you're tracking the audience as well. And the new audiences get mixed into existing campaign structures, so it's just a mess. You don't want to deal with that. And not documentation on learnings, so you keep repeating the same mistakes. You don't really have hypotheses when you are creating new briefs, new ads. It's just not ideal. So don't just avoid this. Just document everything. Now, 5th step, offer level. This is where we're talking about 1 million plus a month in ad spend, right? Most companies get here, or most founders get here, especially first-time founders, and they start thinking about selling. We're talking about a company that's making multiple 8 figures at this stage. So most likely what I see is that, at least 50% of the time, people start thinking about improving the 12-month trailing EBITDA, the trailing 12-month EBITDA of the store. So they start cutting expenses. They start making sure that everything gets optimized as much as possible, and they start talking to brokers and buyers. If you are part of the 50% that wants to keep going, this is where you start thinking about the offer. So you kind of have the first offer that's running on 3 audiences, multiple angles per audience, multiple winning ads per audience, and you kind of want to duplicate that with a second offer. So in the previous level, we focused on the audience. Now we're focusing on the offer. So what we want to do here is we take all of this that's allowing us to spend 1 million a month, and we want to duplicate it with a brand new offer. Okay? Scale at this level happens with the offer. At this stage, you've built stability, and the next constraint lives inside the offer itself. And as a goal here, you can go in 3 different directions. The first one is expanding the TAM. The second one is increasing the lifetime value. And the third one is increasing the average order value. Let's start from the TAM. TAM stands for total addressable market. And this is where you want to reach new types of buyers with offers that open up new markets. So you can localize, meaning you open up new countries, you launch your ads in new languages, or new creatives with local nuances. Or you can launch a new front-end offer that opens up the door to different audiences within the same country. The most common case is I'm selling in the US. I don't really need to open up new countries, but I'd rather focus on opening up a different audience with a new offer. For example, the skincare product we're talking about in this video would start creating women products. It's just an example, obviously. You can go from face skincare to hair care or to body care, or you have many different options. But each one of these new front-end offers attracts a different segment, a different part of the audience within that specific country. The second option is increasing the lifetime value. So this is where you want to extract more value from your existing buyers through upsells, cross-sells, and retention plays. This is where you launch new products that serve the same audiences, or where you introduce subscription versions of the hero product. The final option is increasing the average order value, and you put the offer together in a way that allows you to afford a higher CAC, obviously profitably. So you introduce bundles, for example, of the same hero product. And this is where you kind of open the more price-sensitive part of the same audience, that allows you to keep on scaling. And as I said here, appeals a different segment of a validated audience. What you want to do to make sure that you're succeeding at this level is mapping your offer ecosystem. If acquisition is still efficient, you want to pull the total addressable market lever. So acquisition is good. We increase the TAM. We keep getting new clients for the same CAC, and we're good to go. Instead, if CAC is creeping up or audiences plateau for whatever reason, you want to pull the LTV AOV lever. The creative team structure at this level is the creative team basically becomes an agency. As simple as that. And this is a trend that I'm seeing more and more. And I believe that e-commerce stores somehow are becoming marketing agencies in a way. At this stage, you kind of have your own marketing agency in-house because your brand is running on creative pods. And these are small independent teams built around each offer or market. The MVP, the minimum viable pod for us, is 2 video editors full-time, 1 graphic designer full-time, 1 creative strategist. In this case, you don't think about the total output of the entire creative team, but you focus more on the total output of each pod, which would be 200 to 400 ads per month per pod. What success looks like at this stage, you have 2 to 3 additional offers or markets that are scaling profitably under the same system. You have a core offer that remains stable and profitable. Your LTV increases by 20 to 40% through bundles or subscriptions. The ad account is now diversified across different offers, different audiences and geos with minimal overlap. Not always possible, but this is the goal. And then finally, the creative department runs on pods, producing 1,000 plus ads per month across units without chaos. Is this easy to do? No. Is this something you do in a month? Absolutely not. But this is the goal. And I've had the honor and the privilege to work with, by the way, let me move this, to work with many e-com stores that are at this stage, usually on the high 8 figures, 9 figures in revenue. And it's just the way it works. And many big brands are literally doing this. They have somewhat of an agency in-house that's creating ads at scale and that understands very clearly how creative strategy works. I messed this up. Okay. As a final slide, we have the common pitfalls, where in this case are launching multiple offers before the core one is fully systematized, neglecting lifetime value because acquisition still works, and this is a massive mistake that I tend to see again and again, in over localizing creatives. So over emphasizing the fact that this creative is from the French market, this creative is for the Spanish market, so we need to make sure we have churros on the ad. That's stupid. Locals don't really care about seeing the Tour Eiffel in their ads if they're French. Like they don't really care. Failing to separate budgets and metrics per offer, creating data fog. This is what we were talked about earlier. We talked about it in the context of different audiences, where you have one audience that feeds and keep alive the other audiences and makes up for them. The same happens for the offers, where if you have data fog, you can't see if one offer is keeping the other ones alive, but the other ones are eating on your margins, which is no bueno. It's not ideal. And then finally, ignoring operational strain. When you're growing at these levels, here we're talking about creatives exclusively, but obviously you have many more things that you kind of need to figure out. Customer service, fulfillment, product readiness when you launch new offers. This is very important, and this is definitely something you want to keep in mind if you're launching new offers. With that being said, this is my gift to you. And if you watched the video till now, you absolutely deserve getting some free goodies. So I made sure you could get some of our SOPs, all of the ones that I mentioned, pretty much almost all of the ones that I mentioned in this video. You get the iteration frameworks, you get the creative testing framework, you get the concept buckets, you get the naming convention, and you get the epic framework for free by heading over the link in the description. You opt in, confirm phone number and email address, and you get access to all of these goodies. If you need help implementing all of this, this is just information. So as long as you don't implement, this is just going to be trash in your mind. It's just going to confuse you. But if you want to implement it and you want to make sure that you work hand in hand, one-on-one with somebody who's seen this again and again and can help you implement everything specifically to your store, your situation, your team, whether you are at 500 grand, 10 grand, 30 grand, 100 grand, wherever you are, book a call at 99ads.com/demo. This is the easiest way for us to talk, for you to find out if there's a way for us to help you scale your store. So if you want to do that, please head over to 99ads.com/demo and book a call with us. We'll be more than happy to help you scale. And if you haven't done that yet, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Let me know in the comment section how you like this. If you have any questions, I'm very curious to hear from you. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.